He said, can you build a puppet that can be set on fire and jumps out of the fire and dances? And I said, sure, why not? So when I got off the call, I said, how in the hell am I going to build a puppet that can set on fire?
I think it's really good that they decided to give some kind of inner workings for the anatomy. Hello friends, and welcome back to Puppeteer React without the S, or maybe because we have a very special guest today joining us on Zoom very soon. And who's that, you might ask? Well, let's just start with our first clip today. This is getting better every time I watch it. This is just so amazing. Let's just call up Jeghetto, the man behind the puppet, or at least who made this puppet and made cinematic history, in my opinion.
I am TARISH PIPKINS, aka Jeghetto. Master of Puppetry, been building and performing for 20 years.
I have so many questions in my mind right now. I loved it. But first of all, how does one get to be invited to do puppetry for an HBO show?
I'm friends with the director, Terrence Nance. It's just he emailed me one day and said, I got a couple of questions for you. Can you jump on a Zoom call? So I said, sure. I was introduced to him through a mutual friend named Pierce Freeland here in Durham, North Carolina, because he knew him from years ago. So so we jumped on a Zoom call. He said, I got okay for season 2. He said, can you build a puppet that can be set on fire and jumps out of the fire and dances? And I said, sure, why not? So when I got off the call, I said, how in the hell am I going to build a puppet that can stay on fire? But I pulled it off. It was, I actually built it first out of copper, but it was a much thinner design, and he wanted a full type of doll look, like an African doll. So I went back and rebuilt it out of wood, and I talked to the effects team, and they told me about this material called panther cloth, where it's this suit where stuntmen use when they get set on fire. So I actually had a piece of it. I laid the panther cloth over my hand and lit a mini torch over it, and it dispensed the heat. It takes up to 2,000 degrees. So I built the strip out of wood. I built the joints out of copper wire and covered it with the panther cloth. I built 3-foot steel rods as the controllers, and I actually didn't puppeteer. Actually, I connected one of my puppeteer friends who was in New York, because I didn't have time to go up there and shoot the film, but they just paid me to build the puppet, and I just sent it up by mail. So I actually not that, but the other scene where the ice puppet, where he was dancing with himself and it was made of ice, I was actually puppeteering that puppet, and that puppet was built. It was like a team. Yeah. There was what was his name? I think it's Jeghetto Studios in New York built the rabbit, the Briar Rabbit puppet. A guy named Tim from Philadelphia built the ice puppet, and I built the fire puppet. So we all collaborated, and we're switching out, puppeteering, as our schedules allowed us. That puppet weighed like 70 pounds. Whoa. It was pretty big. It was life size, but it was it was rough because we had the black suits on, and they edit us out, but there's actually 3 of us working the puppet at the same time while interacting with the director while he was dancing. So that took probably like 4 or 5 takes of an intense workout. We were sweating. And
Did it take long to make the puppet itself?
It took me, it only took a few days because I had, I set a schedule aside just to build that. I don't know if you know how Hollywood works, but they say, can you build it yesterday? So, so I only had a few days for the deadline. So I had to build it like 2 or 3 days and go ahead and send it off express mail. So because the shooting schedule kept moving up, the time kept shortening. Oh my God! So there was a little pressure to it, but we pulled it off.
I guess you knew that it's going to be shot in the dark and be on fire, so like you don't need to go for the details, which helps when you want to create a puppet in 2 days. Yeah.
Because I asked him if he wanted any features or eyes or nose. He's like, no, just make it just like a voodoo doll type of thing because it's going to be on fire anyway. So we just focus on the shape of the body and then the flames.
How happy are you with the finished look?
I am elated.
Yeah.
I couldn't, but it looks really good. Especially when it jumped out of the fire and like crawled on the ground. I said, yes.
So I took a look at the new Netflix series Wednesday. But first, I've seen pictures circling around the internet about the puppeteer behind the hand puppet, which was actually not a puppeteer, or technically now is. He's a magician. I think he's done a terrific job, and I absolutely think that he has more right to do this job than most puppeteers I've heard about. Are just movements that not even a hand model would just do. Like when you are using your fingers, your hand, as a creature in itself, when you need to do movements in which magicians are trained. I think it's really good that they decided to give some kind of inner workings for the anatomy of thing, if that makes sense. So you can see in the shots that this part of the hand acts like a head. So whenever thing would look around, he would move like this. I can't even translate that movement too well. Of course, it's lovelier when you have a hand up until the wrist part and then it's missing. That it isn't just a human hand, it's a glove type of puppet. And the wrist part itself is an addition to the puppeteer's hand, and then his arm exits in the back of the hand. I guess because he had to know the puppet for this part. It's the back of his hand. No? I wonder how many different puppets they use, because there are these scenes when you see it from the behind and then it turns around, or is it just most of the puppet is removed and replaced by CGI, or if there are actual CGI shots. It's just a beautiful work of art. I really like the scenes where Thing has to sign as well. He has his own sign language in a way, which is kind of how I can connect with it. Because as you might know, I have a character in a TV show in Hungary, a puppet called Teske, who only communicates through sign language. I think for puppeteers, just to check out these scenes or watch the series because of Thing, because he's in it quite a lot. Worth a watch. Really makes you think about the different applications of puppetry.